Hello, Art Live. Hi, I'm Matthew McLean. I'm the creative director of Frieze Studios and the editor of Frieze Week magazine. Welcome to Art Live. We're here on the first day of Frieze Los Angeles 2025, and today I'm going to go on a tour of the fair and give you a little taste of everything Frieze Los Angeles has to offer. The fair is opening this year in a very particular context. Just last month, wildfires devastated certain areas of Los Angeles. But it's been really heartening and indeed inspiring to see how the city, and in particular its arts community, have really come together to provide support and rebuilding. You'll see different initiatives to support communities directly affected by the fires, as well as LA's communities in a broader sense, all over the fair and indeed across the city this week. But I'm also conscious as I arrive here today of a conversation I had with an arts writer based in East Los Angeles just recently, who said that in her opinion, one of the most important things that the art community could do at this time was to spread joy and enjoy themselves. And I'm hoping we'll find some of that joy as we explore the fair today. Come with me. Hey Casey, congratulations on this year's Frieze projects. I'm so excited to explore them all today. What can you tell us about Art Production Fund and its kind of ethos?
So Art Production Fund is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It's about offering an opportunity for people to engage with art in a way that they aren't expecting.
Each year since you've activated at Frieze, there's been like one overarching theme. Can you talk to me about this year's theme and why it's so important to kind of band the projects together in this way?
So this year's theme, the projects have come together to really celebrate diverse personal stories and also kind of exploring the way that those personal histories and stories inform how we navigate the world. We're standing in front of Ozzy Juarez's project. He will be presented as a swap meet vendor and interacting with people, and they'll actually be able to take away an object he's created specifically for this installation. Claire Chambliss is hiding golden eggs every morning, and the public will have the opportunity to search for eggs, and if they find the eggs, they keep the eggs. Jackie Amezquita has created this incredible painting on the soccer fields where people will be able to walk through a maze and sit and relax and contemplate.
I feel like this year is the first time that the projects are really taking to the skies. Can you tell me a little bit about Madeline Hollander's project?
There is a flight school, Santa Monica Flyers. She has engaged them to offer the public flight lessons where she has created a special narration and a special experience for these people to actually fly through the lens of an artist.
Could you give me a clue about where I might find one of Claire Chambliss's Easter eggs?
Certainly children will be at the right eye level.
I'll get on my marks. Bingo! I've been following Casey's advice and trying to look for these golden eggs as part of her projects, and I found one. Each one contains these unique sculptures by the artist Claire Chambliss, which whoever finds it can take away. I love the kind of Willy Wonka golden ticket quality of the whole project, but I'm going to leave this one for somebody else to find. April, can you tell me please about this world of Atlantica that you explore here on the stand and what this world means to you?
Atlantica is a fictitious planet that I named, but it was first taught to me by my father to explain issues around race and racism. We're actually aliens stationed here on Earth to observe and report. The work is exploring all of the different themes and regions of the planet as I make it up.
And I read that part of this idea of moving to another world or accessing another world, you were kind of inspired of looking at the ocean and blue holes.
They used to terrify me because you can't see down to the bottom. And in the Bahamas, all of our oceans are shallow. But blue holes are like this mystery. Some of them, as my Grammy told me, are portals. And I've expanded that to being portals for gay whales.
Gay whales use the blue holes?
The blue holes are like space stations, right? So as you go through them, you take different stops to where you're going. And within the blue holes, rather than having expensive shopping, there are mostly beauty supply stores.
Because appearance is a very Bahamian concern.
We paint our houses pink, teal, purple, blue. This whole room is like a typical Bahamian neighborhood.
What is it that makes you pick like that's the image I want to work with?
So I put on public photo shoots. I tell them to pretend like they own a planet and they're taking a picture advertising that planet. I try to look for the best defiant look or the best like non-flinching look at the viewer.
So is it important to have that kind of intimacy of taking the image and inviting the person rather than working with a found image?
There's like a huge nerd factor to my work where I want people to be like, I follow this story and I know all of the characters and I show up to these places because I'm in this subculture.
Could you say something about the materiality and the craft of your practice?
When I was in school, I always wanted to mix materials mainly because I couldn't afford to use pure materials. For example, I don't frame my work. So when you see work like the pieces on the outside, they're framed in obnoxious fur because I refuse to professionally frame my work. I want to make sure I can push it together the way I want to see it, and also to show that it can be appreciated and respected without following purist rules.
So Frieze Los Angeles is an amazing place to discover what's happening today in Los Angeles, but there are also these moments in the fair where you can kind of contextualize art production. And this is one of them, the stand of Tilton Gallery, which is showing a really focused survey of works by a seminal figure in Los Angeles art history, Noah Purifoy. This guy just had an amazing life. He was born pre-war in Alabama. He was in the Navy during World War II. He worked as a social worker. He came to Los Angeles and he was actually the first ever African-American student admitted to the Chouinard Art Institute, which has now become CalArts. There was a really pivotal moment in his practice as an artist in which, after the Watts Uprising of 1965, Noah Purifoy began making work from the debris. In his later career, Purifoy actually moved to live in Joshua Tree in the desert, and I don't think his work should be entirely overdetermined by the history of the Watts riots and the history of South Central and those communities. But it's interesting looking at this presentation how it feels as if the memory of the Watts Uprising and that moment in history really remains as a trace in works made through all different stages of his career. I'm thinking particularly of this wall-mounted collage made from charred wood, which almost looks like the morning after the fire. And it feels particularly poignant to be looking at these kind of works in this moment after the recent disasters in Los Angeles. Out of moments of crisis, incredible art can emerge. Good morning, Sam. Thanks for making time for meeting with us today. This body of work seems to me obviously draws on very long-running element of your practice.
Working outdoors, I use plants site-specifically as geolocators in a way, a la Robert Smithson, but as it's grown, they've also, taken on symbolic references and doing research about not just where they're from, but why they're there. North of LA County is one of the larger kelp forests in the Pacific.
And what is it that you learned was particularly distinctive or characterful about these kind of oceanic ecologies?
Just witnessing the diversity as well as how much it would change as I went north along the coast. The different species that I would encounter were really, beautiful and representative of the area in a different way.
Could you just talk about the whole process of, say, a piece like this one?
Spread the plants first on the blank canvas outdoors, then the pigment I throw, and then the atmospheric conditions set the dye, whether it's raining and you get a, really wild spread, or just the mist. So it's not just the plants that represent the space, but really the atmosphere. I kind of set it up and nature knocks it down in a way, and I came to it out of large format photography, which I always love, the chance things with exposures and light leaks and things like that. I really want to leave room for something that I don't know will happen, and so the work is also a surprise to me, and I think that makes a lot of space for the viewer also.
Do you feel in this moment your work sort of sits in a different context as people start to think a little bit more about our relationship to the place we live?
The work is meant initially as an inspiration and encouragement to care about nature. And then I think as nature becomes more vulnerable, when people bear witness to it, it is more of a call to action. Have that immediate connection to nature through the work, and then maybe go outdoors.
So the ceremony for the Deutsche Bank Frieze Los Angeles Film Award is tomorrow night, and we're delighted this year it's being hosted by Ahmed, who is an actor, producer, writer, educator, and, spoiler alert, the man who saved Baby Grogu. I'm going to go and meet him. Could you give us a little bit of a kind of a potted history of you in Star Wars?
Playing Jar Jar was wonderful. It was extremely challenging. I loved the work. Being part of the team that brought CGI characters to film. We were influencing visual art, we were influencing software engineering, we were influencing, motion capture, creating new jobs that exist today in the video game world and in the film world that didn't exist before The Phantom Menace. It was really a part of film history that we have yet to unpack.
You're coming back to the fair this week to host the award ceremony for the Deutsche Bank Frieze Los Angeles Film Award. Have you had a chance to watch any of the entries yet?
Yes. I really love what they're looking at, right? So right now in film, it's kind of going through this revolution that music went through in the 90s. It is really, really possible to make really good-looking stuff for less money, right? And with those tools now, the tools really free the filmmakers up to have a point of view, right? And to really land that point of view in a way that the tech doesn't get in the way. Right. The hardest thing to do to teach a young filmmaker is to have a voice. And all of these young people who wrote these films and who shot these films, they all have a voice.
What is the meaning of awards, particularly for young talent, I guess, like this?
Regardless of whether you win an award or don't win an award, you've accomplished something. Starting something and finishing it is huge. When people say it's an honor to be nominated, that's what it means to me. Like, it is very, very hard to make something.
Yeah. What would be your pick for Best Picture?
I'm going Nickel Boy.
Okay.
Done.
Great.
Finished. Doing it.
And I'm here with the winner of last year's Deutsche Bank Frieze Los Angeles Film Award, Kaylen Ng. Hi Kaylen, how are you doing?
Good.
What is, in a nutshell, the elevator pitch for your submission for the Deutsche Bank Frieze Los Angeles Film Award?
My film is about a father and daughter who, after the father is diagnosed with ALS, the two get to tour a new augmented reality living simulation. And through this experience, while what they see and experience seems picture perfect, glitches in the simulation start to show that maybe this kind of fictitious reality is not really what they need or really want.
How do you hope that having gone through the fellowship process and having received the award will shape your practice and your career going forward?
Winning this award was validating, not only for others to take my work seriously, but also validating for myself.
Could you share what you're working on now or any dream projects in the pipeline for the future?
I am writing diligently on a pilot and a feature. It is a satirical murder mystery comedy set at a kids' CSI camp.
I would watch that.
I hope, you get to one day.
Los Angeles is a really spiritual city. You can't drive anywhere here without, in about 10 minutes, seeing a neon sign advertising a medium or a palmist or a tarot reader. And the works here really speak to that aspect of the city, what somebody described to me as its woo-woo. The gallery Massimo has given over half of its stand to this presentation of works by Greek-American, Los Angeles-based artist Ariana Papademetropoulos. And as you can see, she's really exploring these ideas of the supernatural and the spirit world. And they kind of set the scene for this piece. You can pick up this classic payphone, but what you hear on the other end is the recording of conversations between Ariana, the artist, and a psychic, and tapping the different meanings of her work.
Water for some reason, like lily pads or something.
Ariana and the psychic are talking about how everything is always changing and shifting into something else, which is kind of the theme of the paintings either side of the installation. Here, have a listen.
And there's different shapes that I'm seeing, like things are transforming into other things, almost like the world we live in is less static than you think.
Victor, can you tell me a little bit of your story? How did you begin making art?
I began making art with graffiti. I originally was a big part of that culture. I was a product designer for many years. I was designing vinyl toys and also sneakers for different brands. I studied under Maria Magdalena Campos when I was at the museum school, and she was a huge influence on how to think beyond 2D work, how to create work that speaks to a larger audience and a community. So to see the evolution from painting graffiti, getting this new label called street artist, to having a more serious focus on my studio work, it's just been an incredible experience.
What are some of the visual references or inspirations that kind of you draw on?
The Mexican muralists that everybody calls Los Gigantes, the three giants from Diego Orozco's Tisqueros, were a major influence on me when I was young. And really it was because of the work that they did that was more based on social justice, especially for this series, the Ice Cream series. which is an acronym for Inhumane Cruelty Enforcement, and the word ice cream is spelled S-C-R-E-A-M. Really, that's just a play on street vendors, especially like the Mexican paleteros, and making the connection between what ice is supposed to do and what they actually really do.
And then let's talk specifically about the Frieze Los Angeles Impact Prize.
For Frieze to be able to give an artist an opportunity to be able to show on a scale like this is tremendous, especially for an artist who is primarily known for working on the streets and doing large-scale murals. I feel like Frieze has really given me an opportunity to tell the world that I'm more than just what they think I am.
Do you think one day you'll go back to working in street art?
Oh, I'll never stop working on the streets. The streets are for the people. I love that.
So Gagosian Gallery have given over their entire stand at the fair to this one incredible installation by the late artist Chris Burden. Burden's actually one of the first artists that Larry Gagosian began to work with, and he made a lot of really of his seminal works here in Santa Monica, so it's a bit of a homecoming to see a Chris Burden work here at the fair. The piece, Nomadic Folly, was originally made in 2001. It was commissioned for the Istanbul Biennial, and in this stage of his career, Chris Burden is exploring all of his interests in architecture, in urbanism, and in sort of cultural constructions. But it has this very particular relevance and indeed resonance to see this work in this moment. It's a temporary structure, it's a temporary habitation. It speaks to the idea of people on the move and where we find shelter. And it really connects to me thinking about some of the stories we've heard today, whether it's about people displaced by the fires or their sense of security coming under threat by changing attitudes to immigration. We're really all starting to think about the security, the stability, and the transience of home. It's been a really thought-provoking first day at the fairs today. We've taken in a lot. I'm about to go and avail myself of one of these rugs and try and digest what I've seen. But I want to thank you for joining us today at Art Live. I really hope you've enjoyed it too, and I'll see you next time.